Before we begin, if you love seeing humans outsmart the galaxy's most feared predators, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more HFY stories, and comment below, what would you do if an apex predator scanned you in a crowd? Now, let's dive in. The scent of ammonia and stale metal filled the cavernous refugee processing station. Pipes hissed overhead where coolant systems rattled against rusting clamps. Flickering white panel lights cast stark shadows across the crowded hall, revealing a tapestry of desperate life. Scaled refugees hunched protectively around bundles of cloth, insectoid workers clicking nervously to each other, pale-skinned traders checking wrist-embedded data pads. None of them noticed the predator moving among them. It stalked in silence, massive claws clicking softly against the worn steel floor. Its armored hide shimmered between mottled bronze and obsidian black, shifting shades as adaptive pigments responded to the lighting. Heavy jaws hung slightly ajar, exposing curved bone-crushing teeth slick with translucent venom. Its amber eyes scanned each cluster of refugees, nostrils flaring to taste fear in the air. Today was a hunt. This predator was bred for it, generations of engineered genetics sculpted for gladiatorial arenas and territorial slaughter. Its owners had released it here to feed before transport deeper into human-colonized space. Better it eat worthless refugees than risk a frenzy mid-voyage. It paused near a group of insectoid refugees huddled by a cracked support beam. Their chitinous bodies trembled, tiny clawed hands clutching woven nutrient pouches. The predator lowered its snout, inhaling their pheromone clouds with a shiver of pleasure. Weak prey unarmed, slow. Easy. It stepped forward, massive shoulders bunching as it prepared to spring. Sinewy muscles flexed beneath armored scales. Its vision narrowed to a single target. An elderly insectoid male crouched protectively before a trio of juveniles. The predator's throat rumbled in anticipation. Then it stopped. At first, it didn't understand why its muscles locked in place. Its eyes flicked rapidly across the hall, thermal overlays highlighting each life form in flickering infrared. Then it saw the anomaly. A human male stood near the checkpoint entrance, calmly observing the crowd. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing matte black tactical fatigues reinforced with carbon filament threads. A battered sidearm hung low on his thigh holster, his boots scuffed and dusty from fieldwork. His face bore the stern calmness of a man accustomed to violence. Olive skin drawn into harsh planes by years of exposure, dark hair cropped short, steel-gray eyes watching everything. The predator's nostrils flared again, tasting his scent. For a fleeting moment, confusion rippled through its neural pathways. The human's chemical markers radiated no fear. Instead, something deeper emanated from him, a scent memory encoded in the predator's oldest genes. Its heart thundered in its chest cavity, and the data flickering across its bioengineered brain screamed a single primal command. Danger. The predator tried to move forward, to snarl and assert dominance. Its jaw muscles twitched, venom dripping onto the grated floor. But its hind legs shifted backward instead. Its tail lowered slightly, tip curling inward in submission. Heat flushed through its chest as instinct overrode hunger. It did not understand why it retreated. Only that it must. The human began walking toward it. Each of his steps was measured and silent, boots gliding across steel panels with disciplined grace. His eyes never left the predator's skull, scanning muscle twitches, stance angles, claw positions. Calculations ran unconsciously through his mind. Optimal draw time for the sidearm, distance to cover, structural weaknesses in the creature's armored hide. He stopped a dozen feet away. The predator's eyes flicked away from his gaze. It shifted its weight back further, nostrils trembling with suppressed growls. Its body language, invisible to most species, was screaming submission. The human understood perfectly. Around them, the refugees fell silent. Even the ever-chittering insectoids froze, their antennae drooping low in fear and awe. The predator shook its massive head, drool spraying across the floor. It roared, but the sound lacked conviction. Its tail tucked against its thigh plates. The human tilted his head slightly, regarding it with a calm that made his steel-gray eyes seem almost silver under the flickering lights. He spoke, his voice low and quiet, carrying an authority that cracked across the predator's instincts like a plasma lash. Move along. The predator whimpered, an involuntary, humiliating sound that rumbled deep in its throat. It stepped backward, claws scraping noisily against the floor, eyes locked on the human with unblinking terror. Each movement was a denial of its nature. It was an apex hunter born to slaughter with impunity. Yet here it was, slinking away from a single unarmored human male whose only visible weapon was a holstered pistol. The creature turned, broad shoulders brushing past hanging wires and corroded conduits as it retreated down a maintenance corridor, its head lowered in shame. A trail of trembling drool marked its path, glowing faintly blue under ultraviolet strips. The human stood in silence, watching it vanish into the shadows. Only then did his shoulders ease back to a neutral posture. His gaze swept across the insectoid refugees. Many stared at him with wide, multifaceted eyes filled with something approaching reverence. An elder with gray-crusted chitin bowed low, antennae sweeping the stained floor in gratitude. The human merely nodded, eyes returning to scan the corridor where the predator had fled. He lifted a gloved hand to the small comm embedded behind his right ear. "Command, this is Raynor. Situation neutralized. Predator recognized threat protocol. Crowd secure." A faint crackle responded in his ear. "Copy, Raynor. Stand by for evac detail." He lowered his hand. The refugees had begun moving again, but none dared step within 5 meters of him. His presence radiated the same silent intimidation as the predator, but without the slavering hunger. Only cold certainty. Jace Raynor exhaled slowly, feeling the adrenaline recede. Under his calm exterior, his mind catalogued every movement, scent marker and auditory cue from the predator encounter. Patterns, vulnerabilities, instinctual triggers. Humans had learned long ago how to read predators. How to dominate them. He glanced down at his boots, scuffed with dust from the outlands. A faint smile creased the corners of his mouth as he remembered his grandfather's words back on Earth, spoken around flickering firelight in dense pine forests after a successful hunt. Predators hunt prey. But predators run from hunters. Raynor turned away from the silent crowd, stepping toward the checkpoint exit where his team would be waiting. Each step echoed with quiet finality. Behind him, the insectoid refugees whispered in their chittering language, passing on the story they would carry to every port and station from here to the galactic core. That today the predator scanned the crowd for prey, and fled when it saw the human. Jace Raynor's boots echoed softly down the narrow corridor as he stepped away from the processing hall. The stale air was heavy with coolant fumes, mingling with the sharp metallic tang of the station's rusting infrastructure. He walked with a silent confidence, shoulders relaxed yet ready, his steel-gray eyes scanning each shadow for lingering threats. He passed a cracked observation viewport overlooking the station's docking ring. Beyond the smeared glass floated a field of battered cargo skiffs tethered to oxidized loading cranes. Farther out, a corroded transport barge drifted aimlessly, its hull lights flickering like dying stars. This place was a graveyard orbiting a forgotten moon, its only purpose now to process refugees fleeing failed colonies. Raynor's comm crackled faintly against his earpiece. "Raynor, this is command. Sitrep update. Predator neutralized," he replied, voice low and precise. It retreated without engagement. Refugees unharmed. Requesting species data crosscheck. It recognized human threat pheromones. I want confirmation on its lineage. A pause crackled through static before command's voice returned. "Stand by. Processing your request." He exhaled, glancing at his reflection in the smudged viewport. A scar traced his jawline where a feral hunter beast had ripped into his flesh as a teenager. His gaze was as cold and unwavering now as it had been back then, staring into the eyes of that dying creature as he pinned it to the earth with a blood-slicked blade. Footsteps approached behind him. Raynor shifted sideways without turning, his peripheral vision registering 2 familiar figures emerging from the adjoining corridor. Roth and Merrick, both clad in matte black tactical fatigues identical to his own. Roth was massive even by human standards, his thick arms bulging against reinforced sleeves. A heavy plasma shotgun rested against his chest rig, its magnetic locks humming faintly. His square face split into a grin under a bristled black beard. "Scared off another apex terror with just your glare, Jace?" Roth rumbled, voice deep enough to vibrate the deck plates. Merrick, slimmer and shorter, approached silently. His dark hair was cropped to regulation length, and thin diagnostic goggles perched on his brow. He carried a compact medpack across his chest. His gray eyes flicked up to Raynor's with a hint of quiet amusement. "Vitals?" he asked curtly. "Steady," Raynor replied. "No contact." Merrick nodded, adjusting his gloves as he began scanning the nearby insectoid refugees with his handheld monitor. The insectoids shrank back at his approach, antennae curling in nervous submission. Roth watched them with detached curiosity, before returning his gaze to Raynor. "What was it this time?" Roth asked. "Looked like a Krasker variant from the feed." "Close," Raynor said. Bioengineered gladiator strain. Heavy jaw musculature, enhanced limb density, venomous saliva. But it submitted the moment it scented me. Genetic trauma response. Roth's brow furrowed. Genetic trauma? From us. From humans, Rayner corrected quietly. Its ancestors encountered early Death World settlers. Predators remember the ones who hunted them into extinction. Roth chuckled, the sound reverberating like distant thunder. Never gets old, does it? Knowing even the galaxy's worst nightmares piss themselves when they see one of us. It's not pride, Rayner replied evenly, eyes still scanning the hall. It's hierarchy. We're not prey. We're hunters. Merrick finished his scans, nodding in satisfaction. Refugees are unharmed. Malnourished but stable. We'll forward biometrics to the aid barge. The insectoid elder approached, chitin plates grinding softly. Its multifaceted eyes regarded Rayner with profound caution. It lowered itself in a deep bow, mandibles clicking in a rhythm that translated through Rayner's earpiece as halting galactic basic. Deathworlder, we thank, protection, your presence, powerful? Rayner inclined his head slightly. Remain within the station's inner zones until departure clearance. The predator won't return. The elder bowed again, antennae sweeping the floor before scuttling back to its group. Roth watched them leave, then slung his plasma shotgun back onto its magnetic harness. Command's routing us to Hangar 12, Roth said, glancing at his wrist display. Apparently there's been another breach. Smaller though. Rayner didn't move immediately. His eyes were locked on the dark maintenance corridor where the predator had fled. His expression remained blank, but his mind was calculating, dissecting every nuance of the creature's body language. Its recoil had been immediate, instinctive. Not learned fear, but evolutionary dread woven into its DNA from generations of apex encounters with humans. He felt a flicker of something beneath his ribs. Not pride. Something colder. A certainty. That in every dark corner of this galaxy, no matter how monstrous its creations, they would always yield to what humanity represented. The comm crackled again. Rayner, command here. Crosscheck complete. Confirmed Krasker Prime strain, hybridized with Androxian mantid carapace grafts. Owner, Vassar Gladiatorial Syndicate. They released it for unsanctioned culling to clear refugee volume before transport. Rayner's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Any penalties issued? Processing. Syndicate's legal team already filing liability waivers. Of course they are, Roth muttered with disgust. Rayner turned from the viewport, walking past his teammates toward the access lift. Each step was silent, controlled, a predator's gait in human form. Roth and Merrick fell in behind him without a word. As the lift doors closed, sealing them in with humming magnetic locks, Rayner allowed himself a final reflection. He remembered the first time he'd seen a Krasker. He'd been 15, patrolling the outer farmlands with his father. They found it tearing apart livestock pens, blood painting its snout in thick crimson streaks. His father hadn't flinched, raising a composite rail rifle and putting 2 rounds through its skull before it could turn. Never pity them, Jace, his father had said, smoke curling from the railgun's cooling vents. They're not evil. They're hungry. But always remember, we're hungrier. The lift thrummed as it descended toward the hangar decks. Rayner's steel-gray eyes closed for a brief moment, his breathing steady and silent. The predator had fled today, but it would not be the last. And as long as humanity walked these halls, no apex terror would ever again believe itself untouchable. The lift doors opened to a cavernous loading bay bathed in flickering emergency strobes. Shouts echoed between stacked cargo containers, mingled with the low moan of strained metal beams. Rayner stepped forward without hesitation, his teammates fanning out beside him. His gaze swept the chaos, instantly cataloging threats, avenues of movement and fallback positions. Beyond the haze of coolant mist and pulsing hazard lights, he saw them. Another predator strain, smaller, leaner, claws scraping across blood-stained decking. Its eyes locked onto the approaching humans. For a moment, it crouched low, muscles coiling, preparing to charge. Then it paused. Its nostrils flared, tasting their scent on the recycled air. The moment stretched, silent but electric with instinctual dread. It backed away. Rayner's hand hovered near his holstered sidearm. Come. Confident. Knowing. Roth chuckled darkly. Merrick adjusted his medpack straps. The predator turned and bolted into the shadows. Rayner's eyes narrowed as he watched it disappear, chest rising with a quiet exhale. His voice was low and final when he spoke into his comm. Command, this is Rayner. Hangar 12 secure. Situation identical to prior encounter. Predator recognized hierarchy. There was no pride in his words. Only truth. Predators hunted prey. But when they saw a human, they remembered what came before prey. They remembered hunters. And there was no apex in the galaxy that did not fear the one who hunted hunters. The predator slithered through the maintenance tunnel on all fours, massive clawed hands scraping the grated floor as it fled. Its breath came in ragged, tremulous bursts. Each exhale tasted of sour fear and venom. Its muscles quivered beneath plated hide, confusion roiling through its engineered mind. It had come here to hunt. That was its purpose. To stalk the weak, tear them apart, consume their flesh and fill the cavernous void of its endless hunger. That was what its creators desired, what the gladiatorial syndicates paid for, what its genes demanded. But it had seen him. The human. As it scuttled through the dark corridor, its senses flickered with memory fragments buried deep within its genetic code. Echoes of an ancestral past, dim and broken, surfacing like rot bubbles in stagnant water. It saw a forested moon under amber skies. Thick black trunks twisted into jagged towers, roots clawing through rocky earth. Its kind once ruled there, hunting with impunity, rending the flesh of scaled grazer herds and feathered flyers. They tore apart rival predators. They felt no fear. Until they arrived. Humans. They came in silent dropships that descended like steel falcons. They wore matte black armor that swallowed moonlight, moved in coordinated silence that rivaled any stalking pack. The predators tried to hunt them, thinking them soft-skinned prey with bright heat signatures. But the humans were not prey. They were hunters. They laid traps with metallic scents that seared flesh and burned eyes. They built fortress compounds of stonecrete and plasma-forged steel, from which they emerged each dusk with rail rifles slung across armored chests, eyes glowing behind visors like death itself. The predator remembered one night in particular. A male elder of its lineage had stalked the perimeter of a human compound, tasting the acrid chemical trails they left behind. It watched from the shadows, saliva dripping in anticipation. The humans were few. They seemed unaware. Then one of them turned its head, visor reflecting starlight. The predator froze as those eyes locked onto its hidden shape within the foliage. Before it could react, searing pain tore through its chest. It looked down to see a dart embedded between armored scales. The tranquilizer was engineered for Titan-class fauna. Its heart staggered, breath rasping, vision flickering. Through dimming eyes, it saw the human step forward from the shadows, rail rifle lowered, eyes impassive behind darkened glass. It watched him lift a communicator to his mouth and speak words the predator could not understand. Then darkness consumed it. The memory receded, leaving only a primal echo of dread coiling like molten iron around its pounding heart. The predator skidded to a halt, slamming its clawed hands against the steel tunnel wall. Its jaws opened wide, teeth gnashing in silent rage. Venomous saliva dripped onto the floor, sizzling faintly where it struck corroded metal. It wanted to roar its fury to the void. But no sound emerged, only the rattling of its breath. That human, the one in the station, his scent was the same. That same phenomenal cocktail of predator confidence and calm focus. That same silent aura of inevitable death. It tried to shake the memory away, slamming its massive head into the tunnel wall with a reverberating clang. Sparks showered down, illuminating its amber eyes wide with trembling panic. Humans. Always humans. Behind it, distant voices echoed from the processing hall. Footsteps approached in tactical formation. The predator tensed, spinning to flee deeper into the tunnel system. But as it moved, its claws scraped a fallen maintenance plate. The noise rang down the steel corridor like a gunshot. A voice called out. Come. Confident. Mel. Roth. Heat signature at 20 meters. Closing. Another voice, rough and amused. Want me to breach it, Raynor? Negative. The first voice said. It's moving away. Let it run. The predator froze again. Raynor. That was the human's name. Its enhanced hearing parsed every vibration, every faint echo of his calm words. Something within its chest twisted painfully. It dropped to its forelimbs and sprinted, massive muscles propelling its bulk forward in a panicked scramble. Steam vents burst around it, casting its shadow in flickering monstrous shapes. Its mind burned with a single searing truth it could not escape. The humans hunted them then. They hunted them now. And nothing it possessed, not strength, not venom, not engineered fury, could overcome what it saw in Raynor's eyes. That unspoken promise of swift, silent death. The predator emerged into a massive vent chamber, its domed ceiling lined with humming turbine intake fans. Heat poured from reactor conduits along the walls, bathing the room in shimmering waves of distortion. It paused, chest heaving, claws gouging the grated floor. Its mind flickered with instinctual command lines from its genetic programming. Hunt. Go. Feed. But beneath those commands pulsed a deeper, older truth. Submit. Flee. Survive. Its eyes darted to a shadowed access duct along the far wall. Slipping onto all fours, it skittered toward it, curling its massive armored body into the narrow space. Darkness enveloped it, muffling the roar of turbines and the hiss of coolant vents. Only the ragged wheeze of its breath remained. In that silence, it closed its eyes, trembling. Images of humans flooded its mind. Humans tearing down matriarch dens with kinetic mortars. Humans dragging screaming alpha predators from burrows with plasma tethers. Humans standing over fallen beasts, calm and emotionless, as they ended their lives with clean, efficient violence. The predator curled tighter, tail wrapping protectively over its snout. Its claws flexed uselessly against the cold steel floor. It had no words to explain this fear. No higher thought to question its instincts. Only that when it saw the human male in the station, something buried in its marrow had screamed that death was coming. And it ran. In the darkness, trembling, it finally understood that no matter how strong it grew, how many prey species it devoured, how many engineered enhancements the syndicates layered into its body, there would always be one it could never overcome. The human hunter. Far above, Rayner's voice echoed faintly through the vents as he and his team secured the upper maintenance corridors. Calm. Precise. Unafraid. The predator squeezed its eyes shut, willing the sound away. But it could not stop the memory of his scent, the chill certainty of his gaze. It would never hunt here again. And it would never forget. Jace Rayner moved down the dimly lit corridor with silent certainty. Each step resonated in perfect cadence with his controlled breathing, his boots gliding across metal grates with predatory grace. Behind him, Roth's heavy footfalls echoed louder, while Merrick's lighter steps fell into rhythm with Rayner's, the medic scanning ahead with his tactical goggles, eyes flicking left and right. They reached a sealed bulkhead marked with faded hazard warnings. Heat rippled from weld seams along its edges, the scent of scorched metal mingling with coolant mist drifting from overhead pipes. Rayner placed his gloved palm against the door's control pad. It flickered weakly, unpowered. He felt the vibrations through his fingertips, the muffled thunder of reactor turbines and the tremor of something massive moving on the other side. Roth cocked his plasma shotgun, the weapon humming with charged potential. Whatever's in there isn't small. Or quiet, Merrick added softly, his gaze never leaving the sensor readout scrolling across his goggles. Rayner didn't respond. His steel-gray eyes narrowed as he calculated angles of entry and exit, potential structural weaknesses in the bulkhead, threat response pathways. His breathing slowed until each inhale felt like drawing in liquid steel. A thin line of sweat rolled down his temple, cooling instantly in the refrigerated airflow from the overhead ducts. He looked back at his team. Roth's massive hands tightened around his weapon's grip, ready to unleash a plasma burst powerful enough to melt half the chamber beyond. Merrick's thumb hovered over his medpack controls, priming emergency stabilizers. Both men waited for Rayner's word. Breaching sequence, Rayner said quietly. Roth nodded once, stepping forward. With a grunt, he planted a boot against the bulkhead's edge, braced his shoulder against the opposite frame, and pressed the manual override release. Hydraulic seals hissed and cracked as frozen lubricants snapped under strain. A final metallic screech echoed down the corridor before the door slammed sideways into its housing, revealing the chamber within. Darkness greeted them, punctuated only by flickering emergency strobes pulsing in angry crimson. The floor was littered with debris, twisted support struts, shattered crate panels, pools of black coolant mingled with a viscous blue fluid that steamed faintly where it contacted metal. The scent of ozone, rotting meat, and acid burned their nostrils. At the far end of the chamber, partially hidden behind collapsed scaffolding, the predator loomed. Its massive armored form rose and fell with ragged breaths, each exhale rattling its ribcage. Amber eyes gleamed in the darkness, wide with exhaustion and searing hatred. Its foreclaws flexed against the floor, scraping deep gouges through steel. It was cornered now, driven by hunger, pain, and humiliation. Rayner stepped forward into the chamber, boots crunching across shattered debris. The predator's eyes snapped to him instantly. It froze, chest vibrating with a deep subsonic growl that thrummed through the air like a predator's final warning. Its nostrils flared, tasting his scent. Recognition flickered in its gaze. That same dread from the station returned, stronger now, mixing with bloodlust in a boiling torrent of confusion. Roth raised his shotgun, its twin plasma chambers glowing bright turquoise. "Orders, Raynor?" Merrick hovered behind them, scanner held at the ready, reading the Predator's vital fluctuations as a cacophony of threat markers scrolled across his display. "Its heart rate is spiking. It's going to charge." Raynor didn't move. His steel-gray eyes locked onto the creature's glowing gaze, unflinching, unblinking. For a brief moment, all sound fell away, Roth's labored breathing, the hissing of coolant vents, the flickering crackle of sparking conduits. Only Raynor and the Predator existed in that silent vacuum. He saw it fully now. The tremor in its forelimbs. The subtle tucking of its tail. The rapid microcontractions of its jaw muscles as its mind wavered between instinctual terror and primal rage. "You're not afraid of dying," Raynor murmured softly, almost to himself. "You're afraid of me." The Predator snarled, mandibles cracking wide. Saliva laced with paralytic venom dripped onto the steel floor, sizzling where it pooled. It lunged forward, slamming its clawed fists into the ground with a deafening clang that shook dust from the overhead beams. The force rattled Roth's shotgun grip, sent Merrick stumbling back a step. But Raynor didn't flinch. His right hand moved with preternatural calm, unholstering his sidearm in a single fluid motion. The Predator roared, the sound reverberating through the chamber in a concussive wave that rattled their eardrums. It launched forward, each thunderous step cracking metal grates beneath its claws. Raynor's pistol barked 3 times. The first round struck the Predator's leading knee joint, shattering the reinforced carapace with a spray of jagged chitin fragments. The creature shrieked as its leg buckled sideways, momentum pitching its massive bulk off balance. The second round punched through its throat, rupturing venom glands in an eruption of clear, smoking fluid that sprayed the ceiling in sizzling arcs. The third round buried itself in the soft tissue beneath its left eye, snapping its skull sideways with bone-cracking force. The Predator collapsed onto its side, claws scrabbling weakly against the deck. Ragged wheezes escaped its throat as it writhed in spasmodic convulsions, amber eyes wide with a final, all-consuming terror. It tried to lift its head, its gaze locking onto Raynor one last time. He stepped forward, eyes cold, heart silent. The Predator saw no malice there, no satisfaction. Only absolute, predatory certainty. Raynor raised his pistol, placed the barrel against the creature's broad forehead, and squeezed the trigger. The muffled crack echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap contained in glass. The Predator's massive body went limp, eyes glazing over as the final tremors fled its limbs. Silence returned. Roth exhaled a shaking breath, lowering his shotgun. "Clean kill," he muttered, his voice hoarse with adrenaline. "Damn clean." Merrick stepped forward cautiously, scanner held out, reading the Predator's lifeless form. Vitals negative. Neurological shutdown confirmed. Raynor holstered his sidearm without a word. His gaze lingered on the corpse for a moment, cataloging the creature's muscle density, bone structure, and final post-mortem tremors. Then he turned away, scanning the debris-strewn chamber with sharp, unblinking eyes. Command's voice crackled through his calm. "Raynor. Status report." "Predator terminated," he replied calmly. "No casualties. Minimal structural damage." "Understood. Extraction team inbound. Stand by." Roth wiped sweat from his brow, eyes flicking between Raynor and the corpse. "You know," he rumbled quietly, "I've been in siege units, frontier purges, orbital breaches. Seen death in every way imaginable. But nothing scares me more than how damn calm you are when you pull that trigger." Raynor's eyes remained locked on the far exit door, scanning for any sign of additional movement. His voice, when it came, was soft and distant. "Fear isn't useful. Understanding is." Merrick packed his scanner back into his medpack. "Understanding what?" "That Predators," Raynor said, his gaze narrowing as if peering through a lifetime of memories, "always run from hunters." The chamber fell silent again, punctuated only by the quiet drip of coolant leaks and the fading sizzle of venom burns on the steel floor. Roth and Merrick stood beside him, weapons lowered but ready, eyes reflecting the flickering strobes. Beyond the corpse, through the shattered scaffolding, a narrow maintenance hatch flickered with warning lights. The station trembled under the strain of its dying systems. Somewhere in the endless dark, more Predators waited, some engineered, some born, all believing themselves untouchable. Until they saw him. Raynor turned toward the hatch, boots crunching softly across fractured debris. Roth followed with heavy footfalls, and Merrick moved behind them, eyes scanning his tactical readouts. None spoke as they stepped into the shadows beyond the chamber, leaving the predator's corpse cooling in silence. In the darkness ahead, Raynor's steel-gray eyes glimmered with calm certainty. No apex remained when a human hunter walked the halls. And they were only just beginning.